Do you know Abraham never, ever amounted to what God intended for him to amount to until he drove Hagar and Ishmael plumb away. As long as they were hanging around, there was some good things happened to him and the kings of Sodom when he got Lot back. There was some good things happened when he met Melchizedek. But as far as really exploding to being Abraham, exploding and getting that new name, being changed to Abraham instead of Abram, nothing really come together. The ministry never began to happen until he got a handle on how to deal with Hagar's baby. Number 12, James 1 and 12. Blessed is the man that endureth temptation, for when he is tried, he shall receive the crown of life, which the Lord hath promised to them that love him. Verse 13, let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted of God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man with evil. Verse 14, but every man, every woman, every one of us is tempted when we're drawn away of our own lust and enticed. Then when lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, bringeth forth death. Verse 15 again. When lust hath conceived, it bringeth forth sin. And sin, when it is finished, brings forth death. Now this lust that he's talking about here, when it conceives, it brings forth sin. The possibility of sin being incubated is constant. I mean, it's absolutely constant. As long as you and I have a physical body, the ability there to produce sin it's unlimited. Like human beings or like mammals, you know, they have a cycling period every 28 days or so, and they produce an egg. That egg has to be fertilized from the outside to ever become sin. To ever start the incubation process, it has to have an outside influence. It can't do it of its own. So you and I, if we consider ourselves for just a point of discussion today, let's all consider ourselves maybe of the female nature, whether we have this sin or this egg of sin that resides in us, and it is always there. It's not always fertilized, but it's always there. There's people that go through life and 12, 13 times a year they'll go through a cycle where they produce eggs, but you know they never fertilize, so they never have offspring. James says, don't let anyone say that when they're tempted of God, or God maybe do this, or God put me in a place where this would happen to me, because that's never been the plan of God for you. But says we're tempted when we're drawn away of our own lust and enticed. When something on the outside has enticed us, when something on the outside has enticed us to yield ourselves, our sin-producing ability, then when sin is starting to take place. Because in us there's that eternal ability to sin. Turn with me to Romans, the 7th chapter. There's a verse there I want to read with you. The Apostle Paul, he grappled with this. And as he was talking about when he was a youngster, he was raised to fear God, but he understood that he had no sin in him. But then there was a time come when sin just rose up in him and just destroyed him. In Romans, the 7th chapter, verse number 9, he's talking about when he was a boy. For I was alive without the law once, but when the commandment came, sin revived and I died. When the commandment came. Now, when a mammal is young, I'm talking about young. This producing egg ability is not been started. There's like in humans, there's a time where they go through puberty, and then it starts. You know, there's a term that is bandied about, for centuries about the age of accountability. It's when we change. There's something changes in us. In human beings or in mammals, there's a physical change when a person goes through the age of puberty, and then they go producing these hormones that distinguish them and cause these things to happen. But in the spiritual realm, as we go through the age of puberty, we step into the age of accountability, where we're accountable for who we are. The reason that we slip into that is because, if you ever notice that when a boy goes to going through puberty, his voice will change, and there'll be cosmetic changes different in boys and girls. That's the same way with human beings. There's a time when we go through life, and then all of a sudden, you can watch it in teenagers. Not only are they reaching the age of accountability, but then they become either enamored or infatuated with death. You've seen it, just like I have. They fret about it. You ever watch a bunch of teenagers at a funeral of one of their peers? That's the saddest thing in the world. I'm telling you, it's the saddest thing in the world. Because at the time that they're coming of age physically, they're coming of age spiritually. And not only are they having the ability to reproduce physically, but then they're having the ability to reproduce out of that sin the other way. Paul, writing here in verse number 9, he said, for I was alive without the law once, but when the commandment came, or when puberty came, or when the age of accountability came, he said, sin revived, and I died. Verse 10, and the commandment, which was ordained to life, I found to be unto death. For sin, taking occasion by the commandment, deceived me, and by it slew me. Wherefore the law is holy, and the commandment holy and just and good. Was then that which is good made death unto me? God forbid. But sin, that it might appear sin, working death in me, by that which is good, that sin by the commandment might become exceedingly sinful. You said, the pastor, tell me, what did he just say? What did he just tell me? That commandment that brought that glaring, blinding light on that sin. So was that commandment that was ordained to life, was it made death to me? No, it was there. It was there so that it would draw attention to it. I mean, it draws. Sin is not just something that just happens. It really draws itself out. It pronounces itself. You know it's there. You take a young lady or a young mother when she becomes pregnant. I mean, it don't just happen. You don't just say, well, I'm pregnant, go to the calendar and mark her off 9 months and say, here's the big day. Oh, that 9 months, everything's going to change. Everything changes around the house. There's cosmetic changes. There's changes in attitude. There's changes in family. Everything changes. Someone used to laugh a lot would cry a lot. Someone used to cry a lot would laugh a lot. Clothes that used to fit good don't fit no more. You have a whole new set of clothes that look different. Some of the things you used to kid about, you can't kid about no more. Because that baby is changing everything and it's drawing attention to it. Before the baby comes. You hear me? Before the baby gets there, the baby's presence is already felt. You know it. It's changed everything. And the day the baby comes, it's kind of a relief just to be done with all that. James says, we're deceived when we're drawn away of our own lust, when the part of us has left it after something on the outside, and something on the outside enters in to us, and we conceive, then we bear that sin. That thing on the outside is the works of Satan, the works of the flesh, the thieving, the lying, the immorality, the drunkenness, all those things. Those are works of the flesh or works of Satan. Now those are the things that you and I are enamored with. Every one of us. Even, I don't care if you've been a Christian for 40 years, there's one of those areas out there has a trap door in it for you. You've seen ladies that are married to a guy, and he's rough, he beats, and he bangs on them, and they finally get enough sense, and they divorce him, and they go marry another guy. Have you ever noticed how much that other guy is like the first guy that they just got away from? And the third guy after that? You ever notice a guy that will marry a girl, and she is just a piece of work, and he finally gets rid of her, and he go gets him another, and you know what it's like? She's just like that other one. Because there's just something about some things that we're drawn away by, that we let down our defenses. Like Paul said, I was once alive, but then the commandment came, and sin revived, and I died. I once had it all together, but then there was a weak part of me. A weak part of me. And the ability in me to reproduce has caused me a bunch of grief. Turn with me now to Genesis. We'll finish up our reading here, then we'll be done with that. Genesis, the 16th chapter. Now Sarah, verse 1, Genesis 16 and 1. Now Sarah, Abraham's wife, bare him no children. And she had a handmaid, an Egyptian, whose name was Hagar. And Sarah said unto Abram, Behold, now the Lord hath restrained me from bearing. I pray thee, go in unto my maid. It may be that I may obtain children by her. And Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarah. And Sarah, Abraham's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan, and gave her to her husband, Abram, to be his wife. And he went in unto Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. And Sarah said unto Abraham, My wrong be upon thee. I have given my maid unto thy bosom. And when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. The Lord judge between me and thee. Let's stop there just for a second. Now, we have a man of promise here. Abraham. God told him, said, I'm going to make you the father of many nations. He said, there's some good things in it. Out of your bosom, he says. Out of your bosom. He said, I'm going to make you the father of many nations. Out of you, we're going to birth a whole bunch of things, a whole bunch of people out of you. He had a wife of promise, which was Sarah. She had the ability to bring forth good things. In you, you can read in the book of Galatians, and it talks about the kind of fruits you can bear, fruits of the flesh and fruits of the Spirit. In you, you have the ability to bring forth good fruit or bad fruit. Surely you know that. You have that ability. You say, yeah, but I just don't know how I go about doing it. It just seems like it just happens. Yeah, it just happens. We're going to talk about that today, just how it just happens. Abraham had this woman, Sarah. She was a covenant wife. God even changed her name and called her a princess of God. He said, oh, I'm going to bless you. You have the ability, Abraham. I know it don't look right. I know it just seems impossible. Sarah, 90 and you 100, but it's going to happen. You can trust me. You have the ability to bring forth some good. You have the ability to bring forth the blessing that I'm blessing you with. The good things of God, you have the ability to bring them out of you. They're there. Even though it looks impossible, they're there. But you also have the ability through Hagar now that you can bring forth a seed that is not a promised seed. You have the ability now to bring forth something that's less than the promised seed. So as we watch Abraham here, as he begins to grapple with this, he has the wife, which is the wife of promise. He has the handmaiden of the wife, which was owned of that wife, younger than that wife, easier to get to reproducing. And so his wife tells him, so Abraham said, I'm kind of old, and said, I'm kind of down and out, said, why don't you take Hagar for a wife and let her bear children for me? Which that seems all well and good enough. Well, if Sarah owns this little maid, if she owns this little maid and Sarah is content with this, even though it's a tacky idea, even though it's an idea that's not going to work out too well, it made sense to Abraham. It sure did. And so he began to spend some time with this little Egyptian woman that was easy enough to get in the family way. I'm talking about the first month, and we were in business. It's not hard to conceive and bring forth sin. I mean, that's not an issue. What was hard was for Abraham and Sarah to stay on track and bring forth the promise. Now, in you and in your family, you're just exactly like Abraham. You have that ability to wait on the promise of God and to bring it forth. Inside you is that continual ability to make the eggs of the promise, to make the heirs of the promise, to make your ministry come around to full fold, to make your family be exactly what you have in mind, to bring your finances around and to be subject to the Word, to bring your health to be subject to the Word. You have that ability. But like Abraham and Sarah, sometimes we get just a little bit impatient with that. And so we turn to the other side of us. This other side, the self-serving side that we all have. Where we like to be, number one, we like to be taken, we don't like to be taken advantage, we like this, we like that, we want it our way. And the end will always justify the means. And so Abraham, he went to Hagar. And Hagar had a baby. Now, let me tell you this. Regardless whether you like to think about it or not, you have Isaac in your life, and you have a Hagar's baby in your life. Hagar should have never ever had that baby, and you should have never ever got into some of the things you've gotten into in your life. Your life should have been smooth just like Abraham and Sarah should have been. Well, when this little Hagar become pregnant, you know, It changes the perimeters of a family when someone gets pregnant. And when Hagar became pregnant, she despised Sarah. You hear me? She despised her. I could not stand to look at her. Sarah was the fountain of the promise. Sarah, the only way that Abraham was ever going to be blessed was through Sarah. Are you listening to me? But she had something coming for Abraham now. Some of the things that was said about Hagar's baby is he would be like a herd of wild asses that no one could break. He was going to have 12 sons. And they were going to be wild men. Their hand was going to be against every man, and every man's hand was going to be against them. The Arab nations are descendants of Hagar's baby. Israel is the descendants of Sarah. God wanted Abraham to be blessed. He said, Abraham, you have the ability. He said, I know, Abraham, it seemed like your wife cannot get pregnant. It seemed like you cannot make it happen. It seemed like that you can never, ever come to fulfillment in your family. It seemed like your family will always be just a step out of touch. It seemed like that it's never going to come full circle. But he said, I'm telling you, you have that ability to produce that. Just like with Hagar, the ability to sin is 10 times easier than the ability to wait on the promise. Have you found that out? If you hadn't, you will. It's a whole lot easier just to revert back. So now, when Hagar become pregnant, now in the house you have the man producing a sin, and it brings a rift in the family. Now, for Abraham to ever produce blessings with Sarah, he had to spend time with Sarah, didn't he? I mean, he can't spend all of his time in Hagar's little bedroom if he's ever going to have a child of promise. Well, when he got to spend the time with Hagar, I mean, Hagar liked the company. And so around the house, they were being intimate. They were spending lots of time together. And when Abraham would come in, he would look for Hagar. The wife, the ability to birth blessing and God's blessing into Abraham's life was now being pushed out. There's a bird called a cuckoo bird. This bird is the most obnoxious thing you've ever saw. They're a big bird. They're big as a white leghorn nearly when they come grown. But a cuckoo bird don't raise their own young. They find there's a certain group of little birds, little small birds that build their nests, and these cuckoo birds will catch these birds when they lay their eggs in there. Or the cuckoo bird will lay one egg in there, and they'll fly off, and they'll lay another egg in another nest somewhere, and they forget about their eggs. Well, when those cuckoo birds hatch, they hatch quicker than the average little wrens that are in that nest. And so that cuckoo bird, by instinct, goes to push them backwards and tries to push that other egg out of the nest. And you can look down below those nests, and you see where the eggs of these little wrens, whatever, has broken on the ground. And if they happen to hatch, they have these naked little birds in there, then you have this big old galoot bird, and he just keeps pushing till he pushes everything out of the nest but him. And before them parents can get him raised, that cuckoo bird chick is 5 times as big as they are. and they're working themselves to death to feed that maggot till he'll finally leave the nest. That is the way that the sin produced in our life turns out to be. That's the way that Hagar's baby was trying to do Sarah. If it had been up to Hagar, Sarah would have never had a baby. You know why? Sarah's husband would have never spent a night in her room. Sarah would have never been. Hagar despised her. She wanted Abraham, listen to me, she wanted Abraham to run her off. Run that old biddy off. We don't need her here. Ain't I enough woman for you? Ain't I all you need? Abraham finally come to his senses. God said, Abraham said, you didn't need that to start with. You better do what Sarah says. He said, because there is where your blessings will come from. There is where your promises will come from. It's not going to come from this fleshly enjoyment you're having here with this Hagar and this little baby. So he run her off. And when he run her off, when he made the decision to turn his back on her, you know, then and only then is when Sarah got pregnant. Then and only then was when he was available. Now you and I, we're not so much different than Abraham. We have the ability to produce sin, and we have the ability to produce the promise. But let me tell you, the Bible says that sweet water and bitter water don't flow from the same fountain. You say, well, yeah, but Pastor, it's so much easier. I can gratify myself today just by yielding to my carnal side. Well, I can go to Oklahoma and I can get me something to drink. I can get me a bag of pig skins, and why? Well, I don't get no better than that. Go home and watch football. Hagar was easy enough. That wasn't no problem. But let me tell you, once you start this incubation process, if you go to the flesh, not only it will despise where you get your blessing, as Hagar despised Sarah and wanted her out of there, in later years when Sarah had finally had her little boy, Ishmael was out in the yard. Ishmael was like 12 years old. Isaac was 3 or 4. The blessing was finally on the ground. The promise was finally on the ground. The thing that God had said was, it looked like it was going to happen finally. This old man, over 100 years old, and this old woman, they finally had got together when they got Hagar under control. And they began to work on the promises, and Romans 4 chapter said to call those things that be not as though they were. And then they had this son, and she looked out one day and she was watching her son, and there was Ishmael out there mocking her son. Mocking her son. That little heathen. He shouldn't even be in the house with her. Shouldn't even be around my son. But Abraham allowed his covenant seed and his sinful seed to stay together and stay together. Now let me tell you this, we got 4 or 5 minutes here. If you allow the sin issues of your life to hang around, you say, now Pastor, I'm doing better. I hope we are. Hope we're going to handle some of this stuff, because we're never going to make it over the hump until we do. Because when our Ishmaels are out in the yard with our little Isaacs, they're pretty vulnerable. You hear me? Ishmael was a lot older, a lot more experienced, mocking, tormenting, belittling Isaac. In your life period, and in the life of your family, The side of you that produces the evil, the side of you that produces the trouble, the side of you that produces the pornography, the drugs, the alcohol, the infidelity, the side of you that does all those carnal things that's listed in the book of Galatians as the fruits of the flesh. If you allow that stuff to hang around, it will mock and make fun and pick at your promise, your fruits of the promise, your ministry, your family, your finances, until they never amount to a hill of beans. Let me say this. The number one thing that Ishmael caused was trouble in the family. The number two thing he caused was a financial strain, because then Abraham had two families he was having to support. And number three, he caused trouble with the seed, the sons and the daughters. Now, let's go back to mine and your problem. I don't care if it's alcohol. I don't care if it's drugs. I don't care if it's infidelity in the home, or if it's pornography, or homosexuality, or gambling. I don't care what the problem is. The number one thing it's going to do, it's going to affect the peace in the home. Number two thing it's always going to affect, it's going to affect the finances. And number three, it's always going to rattle down and get into your offspring. There's no way that you can sin and hang on to sin. There's no way that you can keep Ishmael in the house without it being overbearing and running down and beating Isaac plumb out. There's no way that you can grow spiritually and hang on to Hagar's baby all the time. Hagar was fun. I'm not telling you that Abraham didn't enjoy every stinking night he spent in Hagar's little tent. It was a great time. That little Egyptian was nice. But that wasn't where the promise was. And it was, when that lust was conceiving, it was bringing forth a sin, and that sin is still plaguing the seeds of Abraham today. And I'm telling you, these sin issues that you and I have, they're going to plague us until they put us in the ground, and then they're going to take right up with our sons and our daughters. Once we begin to incubating these sins of the flesh, you say, well, Pastor, I just had all kind of trouble. I love my beer. I just have a problem with it. Abraham loved Ishmael. Don't think for a second that he didn't love Ishmael. Well, Pastor, it seems like I just can't keep from gambling. You think he had trouble walking away from Hagar's tent? But it's a bigger thing than that. It's decision time. Do you know Abraham never ever amounted to what God intended for him to amount to until he drove Hagar and Ishmael plumb away. As long as they were hanging around, there was some good things happened to him and the kings of Sodom when he got Lot back. There was some good things happened when he met Melchizedek. But as far as really exploding to being Abraham, exploding and getting that new name, being changed to Abraham instead of Abram, nothing really come together. The ministry never began to happen until he got a handle on how to deal with Hagar's baby. Your family, the divorces ain't going to stop. The drug, alcohol, it ain't going to stop. The infidelity ain't going to stop until you get a handle on Hagar's baby. And I'm telling you, we've all got a Hagar's baby in our life. He may not be with us anymore. We may have put him away, but we've all got one. Bow your head with me, please. Merciful Father, we thank you for this great and this wonderful day. Father, as we entertain your word this day, inside of us there's ability to produce the blessings that you said we would have. And there's that ability to produce that sin that we so crave to be involved with. Father, this day, help us as we're making decisions, as we're reassessing ourselves. Father, help us to grow. Help us to call Ishmael, Ishmael. Father, sometimes I think we slip around and we try to call Ishmael Isaac just for appearance sake. Father, help us that we learn to call the son of sin, and the son of promise, the son of promise. Father, give us discernment this day. Speak to us, your sons and your daughters. Help us as we begin to grow and to put down roots. Help us to get a better understanding of who we are and what ability that we have in us. And Father, this day, we commit this to you, and I ask you, Father, to minister to your children as only you know how, in Jesus' name.